Welcome back to the SBS Podcast. I'm Connor Kendall, and I'm joined by someone. Who are you? Who are you? What's your name?
I've been gone. I get it. Yep. I've been traveling the world,
The
the
world,
many
baby.
different locations. Well, I've been to Boise, and that's it. But I'm back now
Okay,
until I leave for
okay.
South Carolina on Saturday. So, making the rare appearance, I'm back for just a little bit. I'm Cam Clark, and excited to be here.
No, we're glad to have you back. It's been a little minute. I mean, the world. I mean, for some people, Idaho's the world. So I mean,
It's true.
but no, we're glad to have you back. There has been a lot that has happened as of late. Um, I don't know if you've noticed or kept tabs, but it's
Yeah,
been a little
not as
crazy.
much as I would have liked to, but
hmm
yeah, I've definitely been keeping tabs on it.
All right, all right. Well, hopefully we can run by some stuff. I've starred some things that I went over in past episodes, and maybe I'll get your input on later. But we can jump right in.
Yeah,
All right, let's go.
let's do it.
Your SBS starting lineup.
All right, so the first bit of business, I guess we can react a little late, a couple days late, but Ryder Lyons committing to BYU out of where is he from? Sacramento area. I can't remember the exact high school. Fulham,
Yeah,
is that?
Folsom High
Folsom.
School.
hmm So that's a huge get for the Cougars.
Very, very excited. Fun fact about that before we get into just kind of his play style and what we think about him. Have you ever seen the show Mr. Kruger's Christmas?
Yep.
Old show. So the little girl in the show is his mom. Fun fact.
Oh, that's
And
crazy.
his
I didn't know
grandpa
that. That's
directed it.
actually funny. Oh, really? I didn't know that either.
So, yep.
That is a fun little tidbit. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah. Jackson Payne was the one who broke that news on Twitter, and I saw that and I was like, it's actually kind of cool.
I want to know what he was doing, like how he found that information, like why he did find that. But that's funny. That's kind of
Hey,
cool.
he's a journalist. He's got to find something to write about.
That's true. That's true. No, I'm very excited. I was a little nervous going into the announcement. I don't know why, even though I had a strong feeling that this just gave me AJ flashbacks. So I had pretty strong confidence that he was going to pick BYU. I think probably a lot of BYU fans did as well. Especially if you ever keep up with 24/7 sports. I mean, they usually have like crystal ball percentages and stuff, and I think it was like 60-20 BYU at one point, and then it was like 100% like a day or so before.
Yeah.
So
Yep, I wasn't too worried. We talked about it a couple episodes ago, but I have some sources that clued me in on the fact that that there was a deal in place, an NIL deal similar to that of Brock Harris for him to sign. And it was just a matter of when and not if. And so I think we got to a point now, and it was funny the day I heard that he was crystal balled to USC, then he ended up canceling his visit to USC, which is never
that's
a good
right. Yeah.
sign. So I was glad to see BYU was the last visit for him on his carousel of official visits, and I'm pretty pumped about him. He seems like he's been committed to BYU really, since eighth grade, which is what he brought up on
Yeah.
the Pat McAfee show. And I mean, even just watching that announcement live was pretty cool.
It was really cool. I was a little bummed that it wasn't like live, but that was a pre-recording. But still, to get on
Mhm.
ESPN with Pat and the guys to talk about your recruitment and have them give you a platform to announce is pretty cool. Um, I think I'd prefer that over First Take and Stephen A. But that's
Yeah,
just me personally. I felt like,
BYU.
yeah,
I
exactly.
played Duke at BYU.
I was gonna ask like comparing both reactions from Pat's to Stephen A. Stephen A. was just like, "Why the heck are you going there? Like, why would you ever go there? Why would anyone consider going there if you're gonna
Yeah,
play basketball?" So, props to Pat. I think.
and I
I
think
think.
I think it brings up a point of how far established BYU football has become. That with Lavelle in the '80s, like people know BYU, and so it may be a little bit of a shocker to some people that that's where he's going, but at the same time, it's like BYU's not an unheard of place for a five-star quarterback to go.
No.
We've gotten Tanner Mangum, we've gotten Jake Heaps, we've gotten Ben Olsen, and now not all of those have been, 5-star quarterbacks, and none of them have really panned out to what we thought they would be. But, with Lavelle, I think it's not, you don't expect it, but you're not insanely surprised by it like you are with AJ. With BYU basketball, there's never really been a point in time where BYU was just dominant for a long period of time. And I'm thinking Kevin Young's going to have the same effect on the basketball program as far as like a recognition perspective that Lavelle gave the football program back in the 80s.
No, 100%. I agree. 100%. I think Kevin Young's rise in the college basketball ranks is going to be noticed, and they're going to become a powerhouse, as they showed last season. Definitely competing with the best and having a better outing than they did the first season in the Big 12, which that outing in general was great. But yeah, going back to football, I don't think... it's not a shocker that a high-level quarterback with ties to Utah with the faith is choosing BYU. I think it's more impressive that BYU was able to keep up with Oregon NIL money. I mean, you have Uncle Phil and Nike backing the program way back before all this was legal. I mean, I saw a couple tweets. I don't know if you saw some of them, but Oregon fans like, oh, if he chooses BYU, he's choosing money over development. I'm like, first off, we can argue about the development side if you want, but if we're going to talk about money, you cannot be flashing BYU and saying that he's going to BYU just for the money when, again, you got Uncle Phil and Nike backing the entire program and bringing in recruits for the dollar amounts.
See, I think BYU has a top... I think BYU is the top NIL money coming in the West, maybe other than USC. But I think I'd put BYU at number 2 on the West Coast. Like, I know Oregon's got Phil Knight and everything, but I just think the amount of donors that BYU has, the amount of money that's being pumped in from, all the big name members who own all these big name businesses, I think they're able to pump in a lot of money, and so I don't think BYU will ever not be able to get a recruit because they lack the money.
Exactly. And I think it's just sense. 100%. I think they will always have the money, but they won't use that necessarily to, like, bring in a player. Like, they're not going to have a recruit come in, hey, nice to meet you. We have $30 million for 4 years for you. Just come and sign and you're good. Like, that's going to be the last probably step in a recruiting process. I can't remember if it was Kalani or if it was a different coach, but essentially if someone's coming to BYU as a recruit and the first thing or the second thing they ask about is what's the NIL, like what's the money situation, they're not going to want them because that's not their focus. That's not what they want that recruit to be zeroed in on. So I hope that's Ryder's intentions as well, which to me it seems like. I mean, if you watched the announcement, I mean, he had BYU posters stickered up on his wall. Yeah. I think I saw a couple Oregon ones as well, but I mean, he's a BYU guy. It seems like he was a fan. I think his older brother, he never. I don't think he ever played for BYU, but he got recruited. Right now. Yeah, he got recruited by BYU, committed to USC. Hence why Ryder potentially could have gone to USC. But I think Ryder is in it for the right reasons, and it will definitely benefit the program and hopefully bring in more higher rated recruits than that we're already seeing.
Yeah, from the sounds of it too, there's a couple of recruits that are just waiting for everything to kind of die down from the Ryder news before they commit to BYU. And I think going with what you were talking about with the NIL, like I think the money that BYU has, it allows them to be competitive in the fact that they're no longer behind with recruiting. Other schools may offer more money, but I think what you were saying with Kalani, right? It's why are they coming to play? Are they coming to play for the money, or are they coming to play, to grow their faith because they like the coach, because they like the program, because of the history of the program, because they like the community? There's not this party aspect at BYU like there is at other schools. And so I think, they're no longer falling behind where they have like a max limit and they're like, sorry, we're unable. It's they don't want to go more than that because they can tell, they know the reason why they're recruiting and what they want to do with these young men, and that doesn't play a role.
Exactly. I agree 100%. What was my thought? Kind of lost it, but it'll be great in the future. I think.
Sure.
I think the factory, in sense of the BYU quarterback factory, is kind of getting its gears running again. So, I mean, that's a great pitching point in and of itself. I mean, we've gotten 2 quarterbacks. I guess we can kind of say 3 quarterbacks in the league with Keaton Slovis. I mean, he's kind of on the practice squad with the Chiefs, I think. Or is it the Chiefs?
Texans, I think.
Texans, that's right. Yeah. I thought there was a quarterback that was with the Chiefs on the practice squad.
I mean, really 4 if you want to include Slovis.
Taysom. Or Slovis,
Taysom.
yeah.
Yeah, Taysom, Slovis, Hall, and Wilson.
Yeah.
And, soon to be Lions.
I mean, it's like we can give you the building blocks to get into the league, and once you get there, it's on you, which is great. I mean, it hasn't really panned out because I feel like in terms of the BYU perspective, like reflecting on the guys that are in the league, it's a little shaky image. Like, oh, are you kidding me? You're gonna end up like Zach Wilson, just go over there and stink it up in New York. But it was New York. But speaking of Zach Wilson, I've heard good things coming out of camp that he is doing very well with the Dolphins. So that is great to hear.
I think this would have been a good point for him, like to start his career, where he's going to be the backup. He doesn't have to worry a whole lot about competing for the backup job like he had to in Denver, where it was just kind of a 3-way competition. But where you come in, you're going to be the number 2 guy. You're able to build a relationship with the number 1 guy. You have a number 1 guy who is great but injured a lot, so you get the sense that you'll get some playing time. And so, I really like it. And I think even talking about Zach, too, like, people are seeing a lot of comparisons with him and Ryder Lyons. They say Lyons is a bit better runner than Zach and not as great of a thrower, but they're on kind of the same plane when it comes to those sort of things.
That's good. Maybe a little more highly skilled Jaron Hall then. I mean,
I like that
comparison.
Yeah. A Jaron Hall that doesn't underthrow passes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm very not wrong.
Every pass was always underthrown. Puka always just had to sit there and wait for the ball to come, and then he would catch it in traffic. But.
Exactly. I mean, hopefully we can get a big receiver because we got Brock Harris, big tight end. I mean, I think he just had a really good showing at was it the Navy All-American game or something like that for high school athletes.
We've got some really good recruits coming in. We've got the number 1 receiver in the state of Washington coming in. I forget what his name is, but we just got a guy out of where was it? It was I'm thinking Riverside, but it's not Riverside. It starts with an R. It's up in Logan. Ridgeline. He's supposed to be the real deal. Super, super fast kid. And he's going to be one of the top recruits in the state coming out this year. So he's just a junior. Well, he'll be a senior, so same class as Ryder and Brock. But sounds like we've got some really good young receivers coming in too.
No, that's great. I hope because he's projected he graduates this coming year from high school, and then he's he wants to serve a mission for a year, so if he comes back a year early, then that's 27, I believe, or 28th season?
27, yeah. 27, and then you'd see Brock and everyone else from that class come in 28. So
okay.
28 should be the best year.
That should be the peak. I wonder, because our running back room right now will be long gone by then. So I would be very interested to see what kind of running back prospects they get, or maybe transfers at that point. We'll see this coming year what the running back scene looks like. But Because that's always, I
that.
felt like, has been a very worrying position for BYU football. Is
Yeah.
we've had decent running backs here and there. I mean, Jamal Williams, Tyler Algier is probably the best of the two to come out of late, ever since Luke Staley. But
I mean, we had the opportunity to both watch Devon Eka out of Lehigh, and he's signed with BYU, and he's part of that 26 class. I don't know if, like, watching him play for Lehigh, the kid's phenomenal. He's a little bit undersized, I think only about 5'9", but phenomenal player, super fast, almost kind
powerful,
of, yeah, reminds me of almost like a Hinkley Rapati, but a little bit faster. And so I'd like to see what we're able to do with Eka as well. He'd be a junior. I don't know if he plans on serving a mission or not. If he does, he'd come in right with Brock Harris. If not, he'd be a junior when those kids come in. So we've got some good recruits coming in. I'm excited to see how it all turns out.
Oh, for sure. The offensive side of the ball is looking very good, very promising. So hopefully we can keep that trend. Hopefully it just builds and stacks on top of each other for the long term of things.
Yep. Stacking days, stacking recruits.
Stacking days,
wins.
Yep. Which kind of ties into this topic of hopefully having this stable length of success in recruiting. While you were away, the NCAA settlement was finalized. I kind of went over that a little bit, so we don't have to really go into that as deep. But along with it, either before or a couple days after, the NCAA, I think it was finalized, or at least proposed, to changing the format of the playoff again to a 5-11 format.
Yeah.
Which is very similar to what it is now, but instead of having the conference champion be in that 1-4 range, and then the group of 5 being kind of wherever in that 5-12 or whatever range. It's just the top. It just goes in order. Like from last year, if we were to take the rankings and the standings, Arizona State was the 3 seed, I believe, and Boise State was the 4 seed, I think. Or was
Something
it reversed?
Like that, yeah. Might have been reversed, but
I think Arizona State was the 4, Boise State was the 3, and then Clemson was the group of 5 in a sense. Anyway, you go back to that ranking, Arizona State and Boise State would be like the 12 and 11 or 11 and 10 seed. So they wouldn't be as high. So it's kind of changing up a little bit.
Which I like. I mean, you look at all 4 of the, I don't know what you call it, the teams that got byes, none of them made it to the championship, right?
No.
I think a lot of playoffs has to do with momentum. It's really tough to go, you win 4-0 your first series, then you got to wait for the other team to finish their 7-game series. You've been resting for a long time, and it's tough to, you can't really match the same physicality and the same conditioning you get when you're playing a game. You can scrimmage and practice all you want, but there's just game day is different. And if another team gets one more game day than you do to, find that momentum and get it going, I think it provides a huge advantage to the teams that don't have a bye.
Exactly. And we haven't really seen anything like this with FBS football. I mean, FCS side of things, this is like the standard. I mean, there's a bracket format, so a much bigger bracket format, so it's a little more intense. But from the FBS side, like, this is all brand new. I'm with you. I like it because I think it kind of cheap shots a couple of the teams that had really good seasons and worked their way up just to get undercut by a team like Clemson.
Yeah.
That sneaks in and bumps out Alabama or bumps out, I don't know, BYU, we could say. I've heard a couple analysts that when referring to this format and last, I don't think they would have made it in anyways, but they still felt like they got cut out of the playoffs. But it also makes me think, because this is ultimately to try and get those more SEC, more Big Ten teams in, ultimately. Because I think from the commissioners, directly from the commissioner of the SEC, I believe, I can't remember what his name is. He's basically saying, like, calling the Big 12 and the ACC basically just whining and like, well, be better. I mean, you're not really competing with the big dogs in a sense. So I wonder if all this recruitment, all this national attention with BYU, if they can stabilize it and just continue to get better and potentially just dominate the Big 12, if they can make that leap into soon to be one of the two power conferences in the nation.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast yesterday. Maybe it was I think it was 2 days ago. It was back from January 24. Greg Wrubell was on the Beyond the Game podcast that Mike Levy, I think is his name, the host of that one.
That sounds familiar.
But they were talking about, like the Big Ten and SEC, how they're so much higher than everyone else. And Rubel was like, yeah, that's how it is. You look at the revenue and who generates the revenue for the sports, and it's the Big Ten and the SEC schools. But if you're the Big 12, what you have to do as commissioner of your market, you have to make sure you're beating out the ACC. That you find a way to stabilize, as the ACC kind of is in a rocking chair right now, where you've got someone like Clemson who can dominate in football, but in basketball they did well this last year, but never been a super strong name in basketball. Then you've got like Duke in basketball, who's great in that sport, but football not so much. And so you get, and I guess too with Florida State, like Florida State and Clemson have been rumored to been wanting to leave the ACC. So if the ACC starts falling apart, if you're the Big 12, you got to cement yourself as the number 3. And while you're going to have team 1 and 2 with the Big 10 and the SEC, you're never going to beat that, but you got to find a way to stay solid at number 3.
No, 100%. I mean, you look at how it would be divvied up. I'd want BYU to get into the Big Ten, just because if they go into the SEC, that just makes sense. That's like Cal to the ACC, like just Stanford, like makes no sense. Okay. But when you look at the Big 12, I wonder if the reason why they don't get as much recognition or as much respect is because the conference is so level. I mean, all the teams are, in a sense, just beating each other up. The competition is great. It's great football to watch, great basketball to watch. I think that's where they have the edge over possibly the Big Ten as of late with the Big 12 in terms of the two major sports. I think they have an edge over the Big Ten in basketball. But in terms of football, I mean, all the schools are just beating each other up. Whereas you look at the Big Ten and the SEC, you got 4 schools that are just dominating the conferences. I mean, SEC, you go to Georgia, Alabama, sometimes Florida, who else? Tennessee, Ole Miss. I mean, and then LSU. You go to the big, LSU. LSU and Florida have been kind of up and down as of late, but you get Big Ten. Ohio State dominates. Michigan dominates. Penn State dominates. Indiana last year was, I wouldn't really say dominating, but they got all the media attention. So
they dominated those who they needed to dominate.
Exactly. And then once they had to play some big boys, they kind of shriveled up and scurried away. But anyway.
Sorry, I'll let you finish your thought.
No, it's just frustrating because from a content perspective, I guess, from indulging and watching sports, the Big 12 is, I think, the most entertaining, and you would think would possibly bring in more dollars from ESPN, from a NBC, because of the competition, because it's such a back and forth, because you have closer games like last year with BYU Utah, BYU Arizona State, Utah Kansas State. Like there's a bunch of games last season that it was just nail biters and really good football, where you look at the other conferences and not so much.
See, I think, I don't know, I may, like there are parts of that where I'm like, I 100% agree, and then there's another part of that where I look and I say, okay, with Big Ten and SEC, their number 1 is better than number 1 for the Big 12. And, you go down the entire list, I think all the way down to Team 16. And I think Team 16 in the Big 10 and the Big 12, or Big 10 and the SEC, is better than, team 16 in the Big 12 in the ACC. And I think too with that, like I think I'd much rather watch the top teams in the SEC play than the top teams in the ACC, right? And I think that's
Yeah.
kind of where like we're obviously have a lot of bias for the Big 12. We live in Big 12 country.
Yeah.
I haven't used that reference since Pac-12 country, which so glad that's gone.
Right.
Shout out Texas State coming to the Pac-12.
Yeah, I saw that.
What are they? Pac-9, I guess.
The Pac State. Can we just say the
Yeah,
Pac
Pac
State?
State. I like that.
Yeah,
It's the All-State Conference.
exactly.
But I think like the middle is a lot more exciting in the Big 12 and the ACC than it is in the Big 10 and the SEC. But I think like if you look at how much you would watch an ACC game, I think that's kind of how the rest of the country views Big 12 games as well. And while I think Big 12 can have a little bit more street cred because they have Houston in basketball, and because their basketball team are a lot better normally, I find it hard to think that the Big 12 will really ever compete with the Big 10 and the SEC just because they have those powerhouses at the top that drive in the most of the revenue for the sports. Even if it is a Ohio State Rutgers game, you're still going to get a lot of people wanting to watch that because Ohio State's a championship caliber team.
Yeah, that's true. I agree with everything you just said. Those schools are getting the top of the top recruits. And I wonder if part of that is because of the dominance that they set in the conference, that they can say, hey, come to Ohio State, we're guaranteed to go to the playoff every single year. If you want to compete, if you want to be on national television and compete for a national championship every single year without a doubt, Ohio State's the place. Alabama's the place. Georgia's the place. Texas is the place. Go back to the Big 12. Hey, come to BYU, come to Utah, come to Kansas State, come to Iowa State. We have a really good conference. You're going to have to battle. You're going to have to fight to try and win this title to get into the championship. But if you want to be competitive, if you want to have and potentially up your skill set as a player, come to the Big 12.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point too, is there's a lot more competition in the Big 12 and the ACC than there is the SEC and the Big 10, because you have those, like you talked about, those 4 to 6 teams at the top, where those are going to be the most competitive games. Those are going to be the games that have, ratings, 1 through 12 for the year are always going to be those big matchups. But once you get past that moment, the games become less competitive and they're not as enjoyable to watch, other than just the fact they have a big name in them. And so I think when you get to it, I think the games in the Big 12 are more enjoyable than teams 5 through 16 of the SEC and the Big 10. But I think it's because they're so top heavy that you get an Alabama versus Georgia instead of a Clemson versus SMU or a Texas Tech versus Iowa State. While those games will be more competitive than some of the other ones in the SEC and Big 10, I just think the powerhouses of the two big conferences carry it.
Exactly. It's sad when a Vanderbilt, South Carolina is getting a headline top spot afternoon game over an Iowa State, Kansas State game.
Yeah.
But the SEC has the money, and they bring in the money, so I guess they can do that. But it'll be interesting to see this upcoming season. There's obviously a lot that needs to be settled with BYU side of things, which listening to Kalani, they had a media golf tournament. It's just, I don't know if you've heard of this, but it's just a fun way for all the media sources in Utah to, they play a round of golf. I think it's scrambles and it's a tournament style, and then they can talk with coaching staff and other coaches, athletic director, Brian Santiago was there, I think, so, and after they all got together. But there's no addressing the scenario, which we all know it's a very sticky and messy topic. But at what point does BYU have to straight up address it? Because there's been rumors, and I wouldn't even say rumors. There's been talks that Jake has been involved in preseason workouts. Like, he's been practicing with the team ahead of fall camp. When fall camp actually does come around and there is more media availability there, and he's not there or he is there, I mean, they're going to have to answer it. But you would think that they'd want to answer that question and resolve that issue beforehand.
And I think a lot of it too, maybe I just saw this somewhere, but I think like the court date is somewhere in October. And so I think they're still doing a lot of investigating, and I think there's still a lot to sort through with that. Obviously as BYU fans, and really just as, I don't know if that would be the way to put it, but, as BYU fans, from like a sports perspective, you want it to come out and say, it was unfortunate the way it was presented. That's not how it happened. We want to respect the privacy of all those involved. But with the chances that, it is what it was, and even if it wasn't that, but it led to an honor code violation, I think BYU just has to be careful in how they come out and address it to make sure it doesn't look like they're giving, their quarterback the star treatment. And I think it'll be interesting to see how it unfolds as fall camp comes up.
It's going to be very interesting. It's sad. Well, it's not sad that it's not getting huge headlines, which I think it's good for the school. It's going to be sad when a ruling comes out or BYU announces he is not playing, because then, boom, all the story headlines, all the eye grabbers are coming out like, oh, he's guilty, or this is that. Even though in reality they probably won't have had a conclusion to their investigation, possibly. Definitely not the overall charge. The civil lawsuit will not be settled. It's expected, I think, to not even get... they probably have a court... You said they probably have their first court date, probably to set a date to when everything kind of starts up, but that probably won't even happen until next year. So this is all in BYU's hands in terms of how they want their image to be perceived. And as you and I both know, as a lot of BYU fans, a lot of Utah media members know, BYU is very, very proud of their image and does not want that to be like washed away, especially with their values and their morals. I don't see how there is any way Jake plays next season. I mean, unless BYU comes out and says, we have looked through his phone, we've gone through all the statements, we spoke with the what would you call her, the accuser, or the person who filed the report, who filed the lawsuit. We spoke to her and she came out and said, you know what, that didn't happen. That's the only way they can wipe all this off and be good to go. But if there's like just, okay, he didn't do the thing, but he did break an honor code violation, it's still, that goes then up against BYU's morals and whether they truly do honor the honor code. So this is going to be interesting, because I had to think they have to make an announcement before fall camp.
It'll be interesting for sure, especially since like the coaches aren't around the players for the next 3 months, and it'll be wild.
The most annoying part, I think, is that it has just been radio silent, essentially, from all parties.
And I think that's how it will be until any news comes out, which, I mean, makes sense.
They'll be quiet until either something gets leaked or they have a decision. So
yeah. And I think the first bit of news will come from a legal firm or a law firm or a police department more than it will come from BYU, and BYU will adjust accordingly to whatever that statement is.
Exactly. So hopefully it comes out sooner or later. Then we can have some quarterback conversation. Because as of right now, it's all about, well, McKay Hillstead's nice. Bachmeier can be good. So
yeah,
we'll see.
Hey, we've got Lions, Tigers, and Bears now.
Yep.
BYU's
He's got a big old zoo.
It's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be very,
coming
very
to play.
fun. Oh, yeah.
Shifting gears a little bit, unless you wanted to touch on that topic a little bit more.
No, I was gonna switch gears too. Kind of more just touch. What were you gonna switch over?
We were talking about the conferences a little bit, and I was thinking it could be a good segue to the NBA draft, where you had 3 picks in the lottery from the Big Ten, 3 from the Big 12, 3 from the SEC, and 3 from Duke, or AKA the ACC. And so, I found that interesting. While the Big 12 picks happened later than all the other ones, if you want to talk about like cumulative, like adding up the numbers and all that stuff, you saw Duke go 1-4-10. You saw the SEC go 6-7-9. You saw the Big 12 go 3-8-14, and the Big 10 go 2-5-13. And then you had Washington State, the Pac-12, making sure they got in there at 11, and international pick at number 12. And so,
and the Big East, got a couple picks too. I think they got
that's right.
They got at least 2, maybe more than that. I think
the Georgetown guy I think was 15.
Yeah.
So I'm talking mainly just lottery.
Okay, lotteries, yeah.
But I had to wear the Brooklyn hat today.
There we go.
My Brooklyn Dodger hat to represent for Egor going to the Nets. What are your thoughts on him going 8 to Brooklyn?
I was a little shocked that he went so high. In terms of, I thought he would have gone 10. Going into the single digits is great for him. It's a great achievement. It's great for the BYU basketball program. I mean, it can only go up, essentially, in terms of Kevin Young's pitching and recruiting. Like, hey, my first year, we got a top 10 pick in the NBA draft.
Yeah. And
then next year, we're supposed to have a projected number 1 overall pick in the draft, along with possibly a couple other first-rounders, or for sure draft picks in Rob Wright, Richie Saunders, maybe Keita. So I think for Egor personally, for his development, for what I heard, Travis Hansen was on the radio this morning, and he's kind of in Egor's camp, and that was one of the top 3 places that they wanted to land. I guess Egor worked out with Brooklyn 3 times, which, from an outside perspective, I would think the more workouts you have with the team, the not so good it might look, I guess. Like, I guess in my head I would think, oh, I had to work out with the team, and they didn't ask for anything back. And I guess it can go both ways. I guess if you don't get invited back for a second workout, that could be bad because you're not good enough. Or it could be you're very good, and they don't need to see anything else from you. But in this case, I think it was very good for Egor to get 3 invites back to Brooklyn, 3 workouts. It sounded like they were weighing the options between him and another draft pick. I don't know who it was exactly or who it could have been, but essentially they're weighing their options and the pros and cons between Egor and this other pick. But it's going to be an interesting role for him. I think he will be the starting point guard right off the bat, I believe.
Yeah.
In terms of the scene, he's going to deal with New York media, not as heavily as he would if he was on the Knicks, but New York media is still New York media, so we'll see if he can handle that, if they will break him down in a way like they did Zach. Let's hope not. But in terms of Brooklyn as the city, I guess a little tidbit, I guess it is the most densely populated city in America for like Russian immigrants, people coming from Russia. So what are the odds of that? So that will be good for Egor. He can go down to the local Russian market and all that. Speak up with his babushka and all that. So
yeah, I think this is what Google says. The New York metropolitan area has the largest Russian-speaking population in the United States, particularly in Brighton Beach and Brooklyn, which is often called Little Odessa. not a single city. The concentration of Russian speakers in this area makes it the most densely populated Russian area in America. So,
I wonder if that's why he liked
Russian
Brooklyn so
community
much.
zip code is there's 2 different ones in New York. So,
yeah. I mean, what are your thoughts on Egor going to Brooklyn?
but I like it. I think that was the best. I think that was the highest he could go, and so I think if you're looking at it from you want him to be picked as high as you can from a BYU side of things, then I think it's great. I don't love that he's going to have to go in and play right away. I was kind of hoping, he'd have an opportunity to sit behind someone and learn that way, kind of like he did with Trevin Nell. Have someone that can help him develop. But I think Egor has grown a lot as a person, just as a basketball player as well. He'll be able to talk with Travis Hansen. The Nets front office is pretty great. They've always been really good. So I'm really excited to see what happens there. I think he'll perform fine. I think, you're in a similar media space as the Giants, the Mets, and who's the hockey team that I'm thinking of?
The Islanders?
The Islanders. Mm-hmm. Where you're not the main focus team in New York, like the Yankees, Knicks, Rangers, or Jets. And so I think the media should hopefully be a little softer from that perspective, but I'm really excited for him. I don't love the fact that 3 other similar guards to Egor were drafted. I could see, I hope it doesn't happen, but I think there's a possibility that one of them beats him out for the starting job. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Ben Saroff and Nate Traore. I think, is it Nate? Is that his name? Something Traore.
I believe so, yeah.
Out of France. So yeah, the Frenchman, the Israeli, then you've got the wing from North Carolina, Drew Howell, or something like that. That was an elder in my mission, so I don't think that's his name. Something Howell.
Nolan Traore is the guard from France. Yeah.
And then Danny Wolf out of Michigan, the forward and center. So I think it'll be interesting to see how that competition looks like for Egor going into camp and going into the summer league. But I'm excited. I think he can perform well. Sounds like he really likes the coaching staff. Sounds like there's a lot of young players that he'll be able to play with. So he'll come in and hopefully make an impact right away.
If they expect him to be a shooter more than a passer, which that is his strong suit, he's, I will say, by far the best passer in the draft class.
Yeah, 100%.
If they expect him to do what he does best, he will for sure, I think, have the starting role. If they expect him to shoot here and there, and again, but still control the team in a sense, dishing passes, calling screens and all that, then that is going to be a great spot for him out of any team. He'd be in a great spot on any team if he was doing that. If they expect him to be a shooter, to put up points and all that, that is where I get worried, because that is definitely not his strong suit, is scoring the ball. He can shoot it. He can get the points, but that is not his primary focus. That was a Richie Saunders role. That was a Trevin Nell role. So it'll be interesting.
We'll see.
I'm also glad that in terms of the color scheme, I can buy a Nets jersey, and be happy that it is not a Rockets red, Raptors red.
Yeah. See, I'm in a similar thing. I'm going to buy a jersey. I was going to buy a white one so I could wear it to the BYU games, match the Rock. Honestly, Brooklyn was the team I was least hoping for that instance.
Really?
Just the normal black and white, I'm not a huge fan. I was hoping
it's
for a little bit
bland.
of color pop.
Yeah.
It's a little too bland for me.
But I think their city editions are actually pretty nice. I would get one of those. I would get one of those with Egor, especially if, I don't know if they're coming out with new ones or not. They probably are. I feel like the New York teams always come out with new ones, but their throwbacks are nice. So if I get a Demin jersey in that throwback uni, you know it.
I would think about getting the throwback one. It's I can match it with the Brooklyn hat.
Exactly.
So
yeah, but
we'll see though.
I'm excited. I'm excited for how this translates to the BYU basketball side of things. So hopefully it's only up. But
yeah, I think Egor going to Brooklyn was the best thing that could have happened from the Provo side of things. May not have been the best thing that could have happened for Yegor, but I think from a BYU and Kevin Young side, I think that was the best thing that could have happened. So I think I'm happy with that.
No, 100%. Very much so. I mean, he was expected to go probably like 12, 11.
Mm-hmm.
For him to jump 3-4 spots, I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
like, I think that was the highest I thought he could have gone. I remember turning to my dad before it started. I'm like, okay, this is, I think, the top of where Yegor could start going. I thought they were actually, like, if you would have asked me to pin down something that would have happened for Yegor to get drafted, I was planning on the Nets trading 2 of their first-round picks to move up to like that 12, 13 range if Yegor hadn't been drafted yet to try and get him there. But they decided to go with him at 8 and not risk it. So
it's bold. I mean, I like it.
It is.
But
I like it too.
So, well, I guess we'll see how it transitions. I believe he'll perform well. So I don't have any big worries there. What I do worry about is the Jazz picks. We can touch on this a little bit. I'm worried in the sense
really like them.
I love them just from looking at the player, looking at their game. I love the picks. Mm-hmm. I'm worried for the Ace Bailey side of things that this is going to become and transition into a Donovan Mitchell Part 2 in a sense of he doesn't want to be in Utah. Now, I don't know if it's just he's just following up this act, so to say, in terms of he just wanted to focus on basketball, and that's why he didn't go to any pre-draft workouts with any teams, and he just wanted to play to work on his game, which first off makes no sense because you can do that at these pre-draft workouts. You impress the GMs, the owners of these teams, and boost your chances of getting drafted. Which, if he had gone to those pre-workouts, no way the Jazz would have gotten him. I don't think he would have been on the board at 5.
Yeah.
He never really said it, but you can kind of tell that he was a little disappointed in going to Utah, which also not a huge fan of, which, I mean, if you're a big NBA star or supposed to be a big NBA talent, yeah, you're not wanting to go to Utah. You're wanting to go to New York. You're wanting to go to LA. You're wanting to go to Florida. So it was just the fact that he's just like, well, I can only control what I can control. It's like, oh, that was a very mature answer, but it was not the answer that I don't think any of the Utah media wanted to hear. So
see, I actually really like that that's how it turned out, which I know is kind of weird, but I love that. It seems like with Utah Jazz, we don't have like a big personality. Like we don't have someone that can come in and say like, all right, I'm going to be the star. I'm going to take over. And I feel like that's kind of something the Jazz were missing. Like it just seems like for a long time, even like Mitchell was a little bit outspoken, but like he was kind of reserved. He kind of kept to himself. Like I think the Jazz are going to need someone like an Ace Bailey who's kind of a show-off, who has a bit of an attitude. Someone that can go out, and if he's mad, that he'll go out and get ejected from a game or two. I think that's something that the Jazz need in order to build around. That once players start to see, okay, this guy's going to give it his all, he's going to do whatever it takes to help us win, then it can kind of create a unity among the team almost, and kind of enable them to play a bit harder. I don't know. I think it's weird. I don't know why I feel the way I do about it, but I really like that. We got Ace Bailey. I like the attitude problems that he brings. I think it'll be really good, and I really like Walter Clayton at 18 too.
No, I think Walter Clayton at 18 was a really good pick. I know there are a couple fans that were like, oh, why are we taking 2 guards? Even though I think Ace Bailey is more of a forward. I don't know if he was listed as a forward in the draft. Was he?
I think he's like a shooting guard, small forward.
Shooting guard, yeah. He's listed as a guard, so I'm sure that's why some fans. But shooting guard, small forward type-esque player. I kind of explained why I'm a little nervous about Ace Bailey, but I'm not worried in a sense, if that makes sense. I have the nerves. I have what could possibly go wrong, but at the same time, Ace Bailey wanted to go to Brooklyn. He wanted to go to Philly. He wanted to go to. I'm sure he would have wanted to go to San Antonio, but he needed to go to Utah because that's where he will thrive. Like you said, his attitude problems, his ego, will be fed in Utah because he will be shoved right into the spotlight. He will be the main man for the Jazz, and I think once he sees that, once he realizes, hey, I can be the main guy. You weren't going to be the main guy at Philly. You weren't going to be the main guy in San Antonio. Once he realizes that, I think he'll I can actually play basketball. I'll enjoy it. And then once he has the fan experience, I hope that's kind of the turning point in terms of he will fall in love with the city, with the fan base. And on the current side of the roster, or I guess pre-draft roster, I think this will help amp up the competitiveness with the Colin Sextons, the Keontae Georges, the Bryce Sansabas. They're going to be fighting for a job because Ace Bailey is coming in and he's going to take what he wants, essentially. And so this is going to actually show who is serious, who wants to play here, who wants to be competitive, who wants to win. I mean, they all want to win. But after coming off a season like he did last year and the expectations or the whisperings and rumors that it's going to be a season like last year, this upcoming season, you can probably assume the players aren't very happy, not very excited. So I hope this kind of bumps up the competitiveness. So there's a lot of pros. There's a lot of worriedness as well, but I think ultimately I'm excited. I think it'll turn out for the best. I think AA, Danny Ainge, I think they know what they're doing. So
yeah, should be fun. I'm excited to see how kind of this offseason pans out for the Jazz. I think they'll make a couple trades, deal a couple of their guards for some second round, late first round picks for the future. But yeah, I kind of like that we're stacking up. We've got 7 first-round picks under contract now, plus Filipowski, who was like pretty much a first-round pick. Basically. That's just the past 3 years. So excited to see how it pans out. Excited to be getting Taylor Hendricks back after he broke his leg in the first game of the year last year. So.
Yeah. I think, what was my... I'm excited for hopefully more moves to come. I was hoping the Jaylen Brown rumors were true. And maybe Austin Ainge is just gaslighting. Maybe he's just trying not to show his hand or show that we are interested. But today he told, I can't remember who he told, but he said basically that those are garbage, like that we're not in talks with Boston for Jaylen Brown, which if that's true, fine, whatever, move on. But I hope that there's at least some conversation, maybe not with Jaylen Brown specifically, but with a bigger role player, a bigger, hopefully maybe a role model for the Jazz coming in to next season. But I hope there's more to come in terms of big news for the Jazz.
Wow. Sorry, I pulled up Twitter, and one of the first things I saw, going back to high score recruits just for just one moment.
Do we have a little breaking news or something?
The Pula brothers just decommitted out of Tempe.
From Utah?
Weren't
they committed to Utah?
UCLA.
Oh, UCLA.
At least one of them decommitted. I don't know about the other one, but Keenan Pula just decommitted and tweeted, "Where is home?" And one of the BYU wide receiver commits said, "Come home, brother." So.
Wow. That would be big. That would be big. That's kind of what we just talked about just earlier. Like, hopefully this Ryder Lyons commitment starts bringing in, as if a magnet, these other bigger prospects. So
both have decommitted. They did just take an official visit to Utah over the weekend, so maybe that means they're in Utah, but that's pretty big.
I mean, who would want to go play it? I mean, I'd understand going to California, but who wants to play at UCLA? They're freaking garbage, but except they have freaking Nico Amalana or whatever his name is, but that's their only shining star. But
Nico Iamaleava.
Yeah, for real. But to wrap up this show, I touch up on some MLB stuff. Obviously, the biggest probably headline, sadly, while you're gone, is Rafi Devers gets traded to San Francisco. I expressed my opinions about it, and I've gone back and forth on how I feel about it. At first, I was like, you know what? Good for Rafi. I mean, Boston brought in Bregman, stole his position, and then they asked him to move positions. Good on you. Like, if you're not happy, if you don't want to sell, like, you want to play third baseman, you signed me to this, you extended me to, like, 2032 or something like that. I want to play third baseman. You're not just going to kick me out. I want to trade. That was before his presser with the Giants and him saying, I will play any position the Giants want me to play. And then I think a day later, him also saying, I would have played first base for the Red Sox if they asked me. You're going to look at us in the camera as Boston fans and say that the management, Alex Cora, did not ask you to play first base.
I didn't see that.
Didn't ask you to play second base. He said that, and I wanted to grab, like, through the camera, through the phone screen, just freaking punch him because, oh my gosh, that made me so mad. I'm like, how can you say that? Unless it was AI, which who knows these days. But I think that was a real video. So, honestly, my feelings about the Devers trade is good riddance. I don't want him in Boston. He's freaking toxic, even though he was our best player and could really hit the ball very well. Good riddance. Get him out of here.
Guess who might be playing first base on this upcoming road trip for the Giants?
Well, that's the show. Thank you for tuning in.
Okay, so here's the quote.
I'm surprised he didn't start on first base in the series against Boston. That I was shocked he didn't. So
here's the quote. He said, I put up some good numbers in Boston, and I feel like I earned some respect, Devers said through an interpreter. If they would have asked me at the beginning of spring training, yes, I would have played first. And so...
But that's the thing. I thought it did come at the beginning of spring training.
Because they had Tristan Cassis, who broke his leg, and I think that's when they asked him to play first.
Because it's still kind of up in the air. I think it was up in the air with Bregman and Devers on who was going to start at third. Possibly a battle going on, and then Casas out. Okay. No, you're right.
But yeah, I like the Red Sox as much as the next guy, which I don't know how much they like the Red Sox. So
I mean, the next guy probably doesn't like the Red Sox.
The guy to the side of me likes them a lot. Me, I don't know if I like them.
Although I will say, Cam, you should like the Red Sox right now because you're getting a series double over us right now.
Yeah,
so. Did you sweep us? Yeah,
we did. The
so
Angels,
you should like the Red
media
Sox more than anyone. Yeah.
Posted, what was it? Sweep Caroline, dub. And so, little play on some Sweet Caroline in Boston. I saw that. I'm like, that's pretty good. That social media intern deserves a raise.
Sweet. Okay.
But I'm sorry. I just think the Red Sox screwed up. With Devers, I think they tried to ask him to do too much, to move around too much, and I think they have no one else to blame but themselves. Sounds like Devers met with them multiple times, expressed his frustration, and it seems like they just... They were in a tough spot with Bregman, but...
From the moment they signed Bregman, they shot themselves in the foot. Mm-hmm. If you're Rafi and you see the news, like, was my extension, my commitment to you, nothing? You're going to bring in... I think Bregman is probably a better overall player than Rafi in terms of on the third base side. But in his mind, you're going to bring in a guy that's not as good as me, and you expect me to change positions?
You don't sign a guy to a 10-year contract and then ask him to move positions. It's just...
Exactly.
Like, with Harper, he got injured, so that's why he moved. But I think they should have asked Bregman to play second. And I know that's where they brought up Christian Campbell to play, but I don't know. Now Campbell's back down in the minors. Obviously, they wouldn't have known that at the beginning. He started off playing pretty well.
Very good, and he had a slump where I think when he first got up, he was hitting like in the threes, like high twos, and then through a stretch, it was bad, like low twos, mid ones. So
Yeah. So I think the Red Sox just screwed up pretty big there, and just got to move on and hope they can draft well next month, and hope that there's some way that those players they got from the Giants turn out to be something, because that'll go down as one of their worst trades in franchise history, and they've had a lot of those, unfortunately.
I was going to say, 6 years ago there was a pretty bad one, but we'll see if history repeats itself in another 6 years. I think it was 6 years ago Mookie got traded.
Yeah,
5 years or something. It was like 2019.
So 7 years.
We won in 2018. He played 19.
That's right.
So after the 19 season. So 5 years ago we traded Mookie Betts. So in another 5 years we'll probably trade Roman Anthony when he's absolutely smashing it. But
yeah,
it's
Red
the Red
Sox
Sox way.
It's been tough for them this year. Buehler hasn't turned out to be what people thought he was going to be. I do like watching Garrett Crochet pitch. That's been a lot of fun.
That's our only light. Our only joy is Garrett Crochet. So
I like the fan that crochets sweaters in the stands, but only when Crochet pitches.
What? How have I not seen this? No, that is amazing.
I've enjoyed it. I read that story. I'm like, that's pretty good. She just sits in the outfield and crochets while he pitches.
That is amazing.
But I think it's a lot of fun. Yeah, really unfortunate for the Red Sox.
Yeah, but very fortunate for your Angels. I mean, they're taking advantage of us, so
yes, we are.
It's fine.
Back to
I like the Angels.
40-40.
Yeah, 40-40. That's great. I mean, we're back down to below 500, so
yeah,
sounds about right.
I want to trade places with you. It's okay. We've had the most losing. Us and tied with the Buffalo Sabres have the most losing seasons in a row across the 4 major sports franchises right now. Haven't had a winning season since 2016, back when I was in 6th grade maybe.
Wow.
Something like that. So
I didn't know it was that long. But
yeah, it's been a bit rough. Let's see. 2016, I would have been turning 12. So yeah, end of 6th grade, beginning of 7th grade.
Wow. Well, I think this might be a year to maybe break that. Hopefully they keep this streak. What are they? 3? Yeah, so this sweep of the Red Sox is starting their streak.
It's kind of weird. We're like, we sweep, and then we go like 1-3 against the team in a series, then we sweep, and then we go 1-3, and it's a weird.
Kind of with the Red Sox. I think we got up to like a 7-game win streak, and now we're on a 5-game losing streak, so it's bad.
Very streaky, but that is what it is.
Well, I don't know if there's a whole lot more we can cover, but appreciate Cam getting back on.
Yeah.
Great episode.
Of course, shout out to the Utah Mammoth. I don't know too much about it. I were outside trying to dissect it more, but my buddy's a big hockey fan. He texted me saying, "Do you know who this guy is?" I'm like, "No, why would I know who this guy is?" He's like, "He's a Buffalo Sabres forward. Pretty good." Word is on the street is Utah's going to be getting him, and it turns out Mammoth came and swept him from the Sabres.
Yep. It was confirmed. I think he's supposed to sign a 5-year extension as well.
Yeah.
That hasn't been announced or official as of yet, but that is soon to come. But it's great.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah. Hopefully we get some playoff hockey this year.
Good weekend if you're a Utah sports fan. BYU, Jazz, and the hockey club. The Mammoth. No longer the hockey
Mammoth.
club.
How dare you? That is old news.
Sorry, my bad.
We'll put on the throwback sweaters.
Tusks up.
Years. Yeah. But Connor Kendall that was Cameron Clark. We'll catch you back on the next episode. We'll plan and get a schedule going for
We'll
Cam
see
to get back
Rafael
on.
Devers get traded one more time from the Red Sox.
Maybe. Yeah, he'll come back and then actually never mind.
Come back and ask to leave one more time.
Yep. But this will probably do it for this episode of the SBS Podcast.